This is Francesco Abbruzzino with the Uncensored Report. You see up on the picture, Nazis burning books. You also see at the bottom is Stalin, who basically would have individuals killed, and then he would just make them disappear from photos, posters, and everything. And essentially what they were doing is erasing history. Historical hysteria. And, you know, I read an article and they commented this one guy, Frederick Hegel, and he said the only thing you learn from history is that we learn nothing from history. And have we learned nothing from history with what's going on now with the Confederate statues? Think about it. We're trying to wipe clean everything. We think, well, I'm removing a person out of a photo, burning books, Germany saying no to the Nazi symbol anywhere in the country after the war, to the Confederate statues. What we're doing is we're erasing history, or we're conserving it. We're saying hide it away because that's better than censoring. We're not censoring them. You get idiots like Reverend Al Sharpton, the tax evading goofball. He's back in there, you know. And this guy's a big circus himself. He's a three-ring circus himself. And he's out there suggesting, he was on Troll Rose, and he suggested, since the federal government is paying subsidies for this Thomas Jefferson memorial, and since Thomas Jefferson owned slaves, that we should not fund it anymore. What's next? Washington owned slaves. It's part of our history. It's an unfortunate part, but it is part, and you just can't erase it. And what these guys are doing, these Sharpton guys, he's trying to catapult himself back into existence, which, you know, after Obama left, he was a frequent visitor of Obama's at the White House. His life has just basically gone into subsistence. He's off of his show. Life isn't fair to him. And what we need to do is we need to take these flames, these racial rhetoric type flames that Sharpton throws out there and extinguish them. These idiots out in Charlottesville, the white supremacists, the Antifa, the BLM, they're out there, again, causing death, mayhem, and they're flaming the flames again. They're fanning the flames. Media has contributed significantly to this cultural fracturing. Elevating these groups that are bigots, Antifa, put them on a pedestal, when anyone that doesn't watch MSN and watches other live video streams knows that Antifa is one of the worst. They're just as bad as BLM and the white supremacists. Yet media is portraying them as this great anti-white supremacist group, and that's not what they are. Which is, it amazes me. It amazes me. Because they own 90% of the media market out there. And they're able to do this. Part of the chaos also comes from our government. Our government's inability. Our government's unwillingness to go out there and take on these major challenges. You know, they're out there. If you look at Congress, just doing a horrible job. And I was reading this one article, and they talk about how they're not winning with healthcare, with taxes. There's gridlock. It's almost like a rush hour in traffic because they can't solve basic issues. And there's no effort, or there is an effort, by many out there to rewrite history, which is bad. It's not good. You don't want to expunge it. That's what happens in totalitarian states. Stalin, Hitler, George Orwell in 1984. He foresaw the dangers of this approaching. He called it the memory hole, destroying all historical documents. You don't want anything to remind or inform the citizens of their history. So you can rewrite it. You can rewrite it and put in the propaganda that the state wants to have out there, the narrative they want to drive home. The memory hole. And you see similar efforts out there. What we're doing with these Confederate statues, like it or not, like the monuments or not, what they stand for or not, is we're burning history. We're extinguishing history. It makes us no better than what the Nazis did with the books. Stalin did with the pictures of the people that he killed off. Do you think the Germans extinguished, you know, the German people tried to get rid of the Nazi symbols and anything dealing with Nazism to erase that history and rewrite the narrative. And it didn't work. And if you look at the focus that people are putting on these statues, Most of our educational level is just ridiculous. And it's almost funny because they're a product of what we're seeing happening at a lot of these schools. How we have failed at many of our schools. If you think about it. Because I'll go out and I'll talk to these individuals. And it's amazing. You guys have seen me locally at some of these rallies. I'll go out and they'll start saying something that I know is false. I know it's a narrative that's being pushed by MSM, again, controlling 90% of the media. And I'll say, well, that's not accurate, isn't it? This is what, and I'll feed them some facts. And guess what? Their response is, "You're a Nazi! You're a Nazi!" I remember the one guy I live shot when I was doing it, and I was just amazed. You know, the real problem out there is that it's pitting us against each other in this cultural war, this political war. The left versus the right. And I quoted yesterday, and I think it's a great comment, and my wife saw it too, is Charles Barkley, when he said, look, when you look at these Confederate statues, he's not going to even waste any time with them. He said he didn't even know about them. He's not going to waste his energy on them. Instead, he's going to keep doing things that are great, things that make a difference, things that help him grow and the society grow. And that's the attitude we all need, the example we all need to follow. And the example we need to show our future generations. So what if they see these statues? They need to know the history so that we don't repeat history. But like I said at the beginning, with Frederick Heigel's quote, the only thing we learn from history is that we learn nothing from history. And when we hide away, when we burn books, when we get rid of faces, when we get rid of symbols, when we get rid of Confederate monuments, guess what? We're definitely going to repeat history. What's your thoughts? This has been Frankie Abbruzzino with the Uncensored Report.